Hey guys, I am going to be working on a new cup, kind of a fall. I'm going with some fall colors, fall swirl with a little bit of animal print later. And I just thought I would show you the first part. So I've already got some epoxy mixed. I mixed up 5 milliliters. And then I'm using a 20-ounce traveler with handle from Puzzle Tumblers. Some of the colors I am using are from a retired glitter company, but I'll show you colors just so you have an idea. This is a coppery color. It's kind of a fine and ultra fine, maybe a little bit of small mix. And then I'm using Fine as Wine from Puzzle. This is a no name also, and it's just like a burgundy color mix, deep red mix, chunky. And then I am using some wedding bells from Puzzle, and I'm going to be using some white orchid from Puzzle. This is Boogie from Mr. Nola's. It's kind of a gold, rose gold mix. And it's got several different sizes, and this is also a no name, and it's a really, really dark blue. So, first tip of the day that I'm going to give you on this is I learned from a friend, and she had learned from another video or something, that when you're doing the epoxy method, it's so important not to get too much. People want to add too much epoxy because it's easier to spread. The epoxy should not be super easy to spread, because if it does, then that's when you're gonna get your shiny spots, and you don't want shiny spots. So I just have this spray painted white. And if you use your heat gun, and don't get too close, but if you heat up your cup, don't get it over hot, you don't want to burn your spray paint. But if you just take and heat up your cup just a little bit, that will help the epoxy spread easier. So I'm just going over it. I'm constantly moving the cup and the heat gun. It doesn't need too much. You just need it to be a little warm. And that just helps the epoxy smooth on easier. So. I'm gonna do it about a minute. And your cup's gonna be, warm, but you can still touch it without it burning you. So then we're going to use these little finger things. This is what I like to use. I feel that sometimes if I use a glove, I'll use a glove at the end sometimes, but I feel that I put too much on if I use a glove. So I just go down as far as I can until my finger stops, and then I just keep repeating over and over in that same area, and that glides it all the way down. So I hope you can see how I'm doing that. So then I'm just gonna slide my finger over and move all of this over. And I'm just going over and over the same area of my epoxy. And like I said, my finger stops when there's no epoxy, and you just keep moving it down. And it's going to be hard to move. And that's what you want. So, and I'm just repeating it all the way around the cup. Like I said, this will be a couple different steps. This will probably be a 3-step process for this cup to be finished. So I'll just get part 1 done. And then after this is done, I will go and I will epoxy this once it's ready. And it's really important when you epoxy cups with handles that you do thin layers, because if not, you're going to get pooling up underneath the handle, and you don't want that. So I'm just going all the way around my cup. I'm just dipping my finger in just a little bit, and I'm going to move it, push hard and move down. Now after I epoxy this, I will let it sit for just a minute. That way I can get all my glitters ready, all the lids open and all that stuff. So don't, make sure you get the sides of your handles really well and the underneath really well. And I'm just adding just a little bit, and I'm moving it back and forth, making sure I get all of the spots. I always start at the bottom and I add my epoxy to the towards the bottom of the cup and move down. That's just what works for me. As you can tell, I just keep going over and over to get it on thin enough. I'm just going back and forth, making sure I have everything. Like I said, just heating the cup up a little bit. Just be really careful, mindful of how much heat you're putting on it, because you don't want to burn your cup, because you can burn your spray paint, you can melt it, it'll start bubbling and sizzling, and then you'll have to redo your cup. So don't get it too close, but yet don't get it too hot. So I am using a fast set epoxy on this, and I know people say don't use white on fast set, some fast setting epoxies, because they don't have the UV in them, but I'm okay with it because there's going to be a water slide over the white areas, so I'm not too concerned about it, because you will not see the white. And as you can tell, this is starting to set up, but I still have plenty. You just want to make sure your whole cup is coated. And I'm just going down one long line, making sure there's no thick spots. You will see that I use a paintbrush when I apply glitters. That's just my thing. That's just what works for me. A lot of people use tea strainers. I am trying and trying and trying so hard to learn it. I just can't. So this is what I do. So, okay, epoxy's on. So we're just gonna let this set aside for a second while I clean this up and move on to the next step. So right now what I'm going to do is I want to prepare all my glitters. By that, I just want to open them and put them in the line that I'm going to be using them in. The chunkies I like to dump into just a little measuring cup, and I'll just reuse that. But the chunky mixes I just find is a little bit easier. So, and I won't use that much. We can always put back what we don't use. Then, you know, we have to open all these extra full glitters that fly out everywhere. So you know what I think I might do is keep this one, because I might just make a mix with that stuff. Wedding Bells is absolutely stunning. So I'm just opening up everything right now, guys, and trying to make some sort of order. I try to keep my colors in order as I'm using them. And then the next step is to figure out how much of a swirl you want and how thick you want them and stuff like that. I try to use different size mixes because it's just easier for me, and it gives the cup more I don't know, contours, I don't know, depth, I guess is what I want to say. So I've got a few different paintbrushes here, and they're all soft, different widths, and I don't particularly use one more than the other. This is kind of my go-to. I like the width of it that it gives. So I'm gonna go with a copper color first, and I want to just go at an angle. I don't want too much of an angle, but I don't want not enough. So the key to a good blending I have found is to do several light layers. Make sure you hit the bottom. And don't forget that bottom. So I'm just going to, now that I've got the first little spot, I'm just going to do this first little layer. And it's okay to see white. You want to see white, because you will do, I do several thin coats, I guess is what we could say. Then instead of one thick coat of glitter. That's what I find makes the blending a little bit easier. So the next step is I want to add just a little bit of this chunky. So I'm just using a flat brush, and I'm just gonna go right inside, right over that area. It's okay if it gets all over. I'm not too concerned about it. I'm just turning it sideways and tapping. And then I'm going to flip my cup upside down. I'm trying to stay in the camera. I have a new setup, so I apologize if I don't stay in camera the whole time. My original broke, so I'm trying this until I can get a new setup. So, and like I said, we still see lots of white, and don't freak out about it. It's totally okay. So then I'm going to move on to the next color, which is fine as wine. I'm just going to use the same brush, and I'm going to dip. And like I said, I'm not going to do it to the point where you can't see the white. You still want to be able to see the white. And I'm just kind of scoop some on, and I just tap my brush. And you get to pick, you decide how thick you want each color to be. I think I really love this color, so I'm going to go a little bit thicker, but I'm not going to cover it all up yet, okay? So that, I know it looks really blotchy right now, but trust me, just bear with me. like I said, several single coats. Okay, so next I want to do some wedding bells. So I'm just going to add a spot and tap. And like I said, you will most of the time see me using a paintbrush to adhere my glitter. That's just what works for me. So you find what works for you. So there we go. There's our next one. And then I'm going to use just the plain white, and I'm just going to go right over that area. And it's just a matter of repeating the steps over and over until you get the coverage you want. I normally would be like all about saving all this glitter, but right now I'm not. So the next step is the rose. So I'm finding that I'm using this one a little bit more today, which works. And these are just super old brushes. I don't even remember where I got them from. You want to make sure that you get up underneath the handle really well. Like I said, I'm not doing any, I sat and I played with glitters to try to figure out what color combination, and I probably went through 30 different colors before I could decide what I wanted. I'm gonna go and get underneath. Just like that. And then I'm going to come in with this beautiful blue. It's almost a gray blue area. I don't know. It's hard to explain. I really like this color and this coverage that I got so far. I like the color combination I'm just doing underneath the handle, and just a light coat. I'm not too worried about it not covering yet, because we will get to that. So I think these are all the colors I used, and I think I really like this color combination. So I'm going to go back, and I'm actually just going to go on this side just a little bit with the thick, just like that. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to make this just a little bit thicker. Just like that. Okay, so now we're just going to go back and just keep repeating. So this is where you're going to thicken up a little bit and go on just a little bit heavier. And I forgot to bring my blue down, so I need to remember to do that next time. I'm just kind of trying to tap that chunky down a little bit. Like that. Okay. So then I'm going to come in with my fine as wine, and I'm just going to keep going over. And I just kind of scoop it and tap, scoop it and tap, and that's it. And that's how you get your nice even blends. Just like that. I'm just gonna, okay. So then I'm gonna come back in with my wedding bells, and I'm just going to just go like that. And then I've got my white again. I want to blend it into the others, so I'm just I will make sure that I seal it really well before I epoxy. And like this one, I will tap it down this color just a little bit, just because there's some bigger cuts. So I would just want to make sure that make sure it's all laid down pretty much. I'm just going to scoop some of this lovely, beautiful mix up and use it because it's just the handle and it's all the colors I've used, so might as well, right? And I'm going to come in with my blue. If you're new to blending a bunch of colors, I would suggest using a slow curing epoxy. I've just done this several times, so I'm not afraid of time-wise how much time I have. But if you think you're going to take a little bit longer, I would definitely suggest using a slower curing epoxy. Just hold at an angle and tap. And then I think I'm going to go ahead and go back in and add some of this finest wine on this side, just to blend. Like I said, this is going to be more of a fall themed swirl. This is going to have a really cool water slide over it, so I'll make sure that I share that with you once I get my printer working. I've been having printer issues. So then I'm just going to go down, because I keep forgetting the bottom, guys. Don't forget the bottom. Don't pull a Stephanie. I'm just going to, I keep tapping the excess off. Just because I don't want my glitters to be all mixed. I just kind of threw them all on there, but that's okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look over my cup and see if there's any places I want to try to fill in more or add to. If I see a bunch of white, I will try to tap on just a little bit more. Just like that. I think I'm going to try to add a little bit more sparkle into that. Might be a really pretty custom keychain mix too. On this paper, on my, might have to keep it, save it, and do a keychain. But okay, so I think I'm pleasantly impressed, except I do have a little spot there, see? So I'm just going to take a little bit and add. I might take just a little bit of blue and let's take some of that mix and add. But that is it, guys. So this is step 1. And then, like I said, we'll come back. I might, once I seal this really well, I really like this chunky, so I might go ahead and add some adhesive. I'll seal it a couple times really well. I'll add some adhesive spray to a strip right here and maybe add some more of that chunky right through there mixed in with the wedding bells. But stay tuned for step 2. And we will go from there. But you can always add as much chunky or do whatever colors that you like. So I'm gonna let this cure. I'll seal it, add some chunky, and then I will go ahead and epoxy, get it epoxied, and then we'll go from there. So thanks guys, bye.